Ask any medical biller what their arch enemy is and they'll identify one of the two main types of codes that they work with. Of course, what I'm referring to are ICD codes and CPT codes, but if you're working within the industry, you already knew that. Although both types of those codes are an essential part of the medical billing process, they lead to a lot of headaches for billers and the organizations that they represent. Since both types of codes deal directly with the patient, they're considered the front end of the revenue cycle. Unfortunately, that also means both of those types of codes fall under the category that accounts for a lot of denials for healthcare organizations. Front-end revenue cycle processes account for half of all claim denials on average. Anyway, the reason why both these types of codes cause so many denials for healthcare organizations is most likely attributed to the fact that there are so many of them. There are over 70,000 ICD-10 codes for clinical modifications, CM alone. Adding another 10,000 CPT codes on top of all of that, and you see why they cause so many headaches. So what can medical billers do to cut down on front-end claim denials? Well, the answer is simple, and it starts with claim scrubbing. Hi everyone, I'm Matt from Tactics, and today I'm going to give you 5 consequences of not having a claim scrubbed prior to submission. Before we get started though, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking the button below. Also, while you're down there, hit that alert bell icon next to it as well, so when we post new helpful content, you get notified. The first consequence is a truckload of claim rejections. If you don't scrub your claims prior to submission, you're going to end up with a lot more claim rejections on your hands. During the introduction, I alluded to the fact that front-end denials happen because of claims that aren't scrubbed. Although that's a correct statement, your clearinghouse should have your back before you submit to a payer and receive a denial. If you don't feel the love in that sense from your clearinghouse, you should consider switching to a different one altogether. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that your clearinghouse should run your claims through an automated scrubbing process. If the clearinghouse finds errors in what you submit, it should reject it on its own level. If you do submit your claims on a clearinghouse level, that's great. But if you scrub them before you submit them on any level, you're a rock star. Now the next consequence I have for you is payment delay. The more rejections you receive on your claims, the longer it takes for your organization to receive payment. Let's say you waited until the end of the day to submit everything to each of your client's payers. It was a long day of nothing but physicals, and you have a family event to get to that you're already late for. Thus, you glaze over each claim, hit submit, and then go on your merry way. 3 days later, you're bombarded with payer rejections for each claim you submitted that day because you were 1 digit off in the CPT code for all of them. This is a good place to mention that 1 day's worth of claims is a lot, but it's not unmanageable. What is unmanageable is getting a ton of payer rejections every day because you have a hard time producing a clean claim. See how things can start to cascade here? Third, you're going to lose your bottom line. Maybe your mentality is that you'll submit what you can and whatever gets rejected by payers will go into a never-ending to-do list of claims that require reconfiguration by your team. Although that sounds reasonable, it's not attainable. You might already know this, but insurance payers place timely filing limits on their claims. In other words, if you can't submit or resubmit a claim to a payer within its allotted time frame, it's going to get denied. Ironically, you'll hear back from a payer whether or not it denied your claim within 1 to 4 weeks. So if you're keeping a pile of your rejections laying around, you might as well consider them denials at this point. Unfortunately, the industry trend in collecting from denials isn't in your favor either. Healthcare organizations are writing off 90% more claim denials now than they did just 6 years ago. Like I mentioned in the previous section, getting a lot of payer rejections leads to delays in payment because of how tedious it is to clean them. However, not fixing those rejected claims at all or fast enough leads to denials as well. Fourth, you're going to see a spike in employee burnout. Now you've probably heard at some point from the mainstream media outlets recently, but the healthcare industry is drowning in work. The rates of burnout are so bad right now that many healthcare professionals have decided to move away from the industry entirely. Of course, there are many reasons why burnout rates within the industry are so high, and a lot of it has to do with a physician shortage in the United States. But the point I'm trying to make is two-pronged. First, it's that if most healthcare organizations face a staffing crisis, odds are yours is too. Second, it's that the shortage of medical professionals is causing burnout rates to skyrocket because facilities don't have enough bandwidth. So if you're not scrubbing your claims prior to submission, you're going to run into a ton more work from a rework perspective. On top of that, you're going to shrink your bottom line. Now the cherry on top is that your team, which is already overworked based on industry trends, will have more daily responsibilities to handle. Finally, and maybe worst of all, you're going to have frustrated patients on your hands. With how involved it is to deal with insurance payers on the revenue cycle side of healthcare, it's easy to forget the purpose of medical facilities in the first place. Caring for patients is the reason why most professionals enter the industry to begin with. Unfortunately, not scrubbing your claims could also affect the patients that seek services from your facility. I mean, think about it. If your team is so bogged down with trying to stay on top of your rejected claims to avoid denials, they won't have time for your patients. In those inevitable patient interactions, they're going to be so focused on the mountain of work that lays ahead of them when they get back to their office after this appointment that they won't be able to give the experience to the patient that they deserve. Now, if you have a clearinghouse, it should have your back in the sense that it scrubs and rejects claims before submission to payers. Yes, technically, if it's coming from your clearinghouse, it's still a rejection that you'll have to rework. However, clearinghouse rejections exist as a protective step in the process, and they happen instantaneously instead of 1 to 4 weeks. Instead of having to wait several days for the payer to reject your claim, you can clean it as soon as you receive the instant notification from your clearinghouse. It does still require effort, but it's a much better and streamlined alternative than writing losses every year. If you'd like to learn more about claim scrubbing, reach out to eTactics. And you already made it this far into the video, so you might as well like it, share it, and comment below. Well, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to our YouTube channel.